Welcome to the shifter, everybody. I'm sad.
And I'm Matt, and I want to say something first. All right. So all you're gonna hear is I know not a lot of people watch this show. All you're gonna hear all week, and I'm sorry, Will, if you disagree with what I'm about to say, because I didn't get this cleared before I said it. On this show, I don't want to talk about the playoff format at all. Because you know what? At the beginning of the season, we know what we all signed up for. We knew exactly what was gonna happen. This happens every year. Deserving drivers don't make it. Drivers that definitely don't deserve to make it. I don't think we've ever had this extreme of an example where a driver was last in points and won a race. But you know what? If you want to hear us talk about the playoff system and talk bad about it and talk about how we can fix it, go watch the Austin Dillon episode from 2 episodes ago, or go watch the episode where Austin Cindric won, because you know what? We would just be regurgitating the same points. But what I do want to talk about in this episode is the a team that started with NASCAR got their 100th win on Saturday night after 7 years. It was one of the most loved wins in the garage area. A guy with that has been nothing but, you know what, Emily, I'm sorry, shit on for the last 3 years by the entire NASCAR fan base that was once looked, especially Will, that was even looked at one of the most highest touted prospects at a history in time, and now viewed as one of the biggest busts in NASCAR history until Saturday night. With his racing life on the line, guys, this guy just got fired from his job 2 weeks ago, and he went to the biggest center in racing and passed one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time, who also has his back against the wall on the final lap, pushed by an unknown rookie. And we also got one of the greatest calls in NASCAR history. So at the end of the day, there's a lot to be mad about. Yes, cars are flipping. We flipped 3 cars in the last 6 days. That is something to be really mad about.
And I think we
By the
will
way,
talk about that, by the way.
yeah, 2 other cars got airborne in this race and almost flipped. That's a problem. But you know what? We know that the championship format isn't perfect. It may not even be legitimate. There is an argument there. But at the end of the day, when you turn on the first Daytona race in Fox and you pick a driver to root for, and after 20 races, they don't have a win. After 25 races, they don't have a win. No matter how consistent they are, guys, Martin Truex was 4th in the points one year and missed the playoffs. So you know that there is a shot. And Bubba Wallace himself, he is one of those 2 drivers that could make a deep run that will not make it. Him and Ross Chastain will probably not make it. Bubba Wallace does have a chance to point his way in still. That is not completely out of the question. He said himself after the race at Daytona that this is on him, that it's completely unacceptable that they don't have a win. And you know what? I know he got shit on for it, but he's right. Both him and Ross Chastain should have a win. Their teammates do. There's no reason why they shouldn't. I know there's been some bad luck. Both of them should have won races. Ross should have won at Nashville earlier this year if Kyle Larson didn't decide to go kamikaze into turn one. And Bubba Wallace probably would have won Chicago on a road course of all places if Alex Bowman didn't decide to turn on his windshield wiper in the middle of a turn. So, you know what? They both still have a shot at Darlington. Same with Kyle Busch. I know Kyle Busch has had a terrible season and probably arguably doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. But there is 4 drivers below Kyle Busch in points that will be in the playoffs. So, I just think that regurgitating those same points isn't going to do any good. And I'll go ahead and get the top 10 out of the way real quick. Finishing in first was Harrison Burton. Harrison Burton won at Daytona. Finishing in second with possibly the biggest heartbreak of the season, Kyle Busch. Finishing in third was Christopher Bell, who I know every Bubba Wallace fan and Ross Chastain fan in the country was rooting for on that last lap. And finishing in fourth, Mr. Purple and Black himself, Cody Ware. Sorry. Coming home in
Black
the
and
fifth.
blue.
Black and blue. Who said that? I forgot who finished fifth. Oh, my bad. Will's going to love who finished in fifth. Ty Gibbs came home fifth, basically locking up his playoff slot. But if he crashes in stage one, that changes everything. In sixth was maybe the recovery of the night with looking like terminal damage after a big one with about 10 to go, fighting all the way back through the middle, trying to save his playoff life. Bubba Wallace came home in sixth. In seventh, the guy that said, screw teamwork. Wait a minute. I just realized something. I made a promise on this show last week.
Okay, hold on, Matt.
You want to restart?
Continue whatever you were saying. No, I don't remember.
Oh, Okay, so coming home in sixth, like I just said, Bubba Wallace. And I made a promise on the show last week before I forget the top 10. Chase Elliott was caught up in the first big one of the day, ending his day because of the next gen car. It broke his suspension. So, despite this being a very tough week for Bubba Wallace fans, you do get one thing, Will. You do get one thing. And I sincerely apologize for what everyone else is about to hear. And Will is just going to sit back and laugh because he doesn't have to sing. And I have to sing. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Guess who's back? Back again. Shady's back. Tell a friend. Now, every woman boy to the dance floor. To the dance floor. To the dance floor. Now, every woman boy to the dance floor. All right, stop. Missed the playoffs time. Come here, little kitty, on my lap. Guess who's back with a brand new rap? And I don't mean rap as in a new case of child molestation accusation. Bah, no worries. Papa's got a brand new bag of toys. What else could I possibly do to make noise? I touched on everything but little boys. Now, that's not a stab at Michael. That's just a metaphor. I'm just psycho. I go a little bit crazy sometimes. I get a little bit out of control with my rhymes. Good God, Dick, do a little slide. Bend down, touch your toes, and just vibe at the center of the dance floor. TP from my bunghole. And it's cool if you let one go. Nobody's going to know who'd hear it. Give a little toot toot. It's okay. My CD just skipped, and everyone just heard you let one rip. Now I'm gonna make you dance. It's your chance. Yeah, boy, shake that ass. Whoops, I mean girl. Girl, girl, girl. You know you're my world. All right, now lose it. Bah, just lose it. Bah, go crazy. Whoa, baby, and that's all you're getting. Coming home at seventh place after that outburst was Parker Retzloff, who said screw team orders from RCR on the last lap and pushed Harrison Burton to the win anyways. That's a controversy that nobody's talking about.
Yeah.
ECR came on the radio and said, no, Parker Retzloff, don't push him to the win. Parker Retzloff said, screw you guys. He might have ruined his future, but that's all right.
You're not my dad.
Eighth place was Brad Keselowski, who arguably had the dominant car of the night. Ninth place for the fourth time this year, who just seems to can only get up to ninth, Daniel Hemrick. And 10th place, he was also involved on the crash with 10 to go. Saving his playoff life was Chris Buescher. 21 points up on the cut line over Bubba Wallace going into the Southern 500. And in the other news in NASCAR this week, it was actually a family affair this weekend as Ryan Truex won the other race at Daytona for his third career win with his career against the wall. And another guy, Scott Riggs' son, Lane Riggs, who missed the playoff disappointingly, would win the race at Milwaukee on Sunday. Yes, the truck race was on Sunday. And actually dislocate his shoulder celebrating, and his pit crew would have to pop it back into place on live television.
I didn't know that happened because I had a very busy Sunday. What?
Yeah, Lane Riggs would win this first race. By the way, the playoff opener for the truck series, and then dislocate his shoulder in the celebration, and they would pop it back into place.
Did he do like the Sami Zayn thing where he was like pumping his fist and like he just like was that it? Like what?
Yeah, he said it happens to him. It's happened to him a lot in his life, actually. So
that also
real
ones know about Sami Zayn dislocating his shoulder in his first match on non-NXT WWE live television because he was doing his entrance. He was getting ready to wrestle John Cena, Matt. You know him.
I do.
John was going through his era of wrestling with young people and making them look really good.
I'm so proud of John, but I can't see him. I've never been able to.
Yeah, I mean, I've never known what the guy looks like. I just know he's a hard worker, and I love that guy. Also, I say young worker. Sami Zayn had been wrestling for like 10 to 15 years at this point. But
we have one more thing in the news this week. The 88 car will be back next season. With the blessing of Dale Jr., Justin Marks will be bringing back the 88 for Shane Van Gisbergen, who will officially be going full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series next year. And with that, Zane Smith has been released from his Trackhouse contract and will be free to look for other offers for the 2025 season. And now let's get into the show, I guess.
Yeah, well, first off, just real quick, while we're on the topic of Zane Smith, I want to say that, well, first off, we started off the season very high on Zane Smith and talked about how we figured he would struggle a little bit and then maybe come on late. And I feel like we've kind of seen that. I mean, we've started to see more results out of Zane. He is a very talented and young race car driver. I think a lot of teams that have the resources to potentially develop a guy. Like, I understand if you're in win now mode, maybe he's not the guy yet, but I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously, Trackhouse kind of made the decision that you have to make, and they have like other young prospects enough to where you go like, okay, well, you might not need to hold on to Zane Smith because who's to say in 3 years Connor Zilish isn't coming up with the Cup Series, that kind of thing. But On one hand, it sucks for Zane, but I don't think he'll have a problem finding a ride.
I think he will be driving the third car at front row next year, is what it sounds like, actually. So I think he'll be fine. Like Will said, he has came on late. 2 top 10s in the last 8 races and 4 top 20s in the last 8 races, which is better than one of his teammates. By the way, I didn't mention it because he didn't get a top 10, but Carson Hocevar finished 11th this week, so very close to his third straight top 10.
Yeah, Carson Hocevar, again, he's been almost the opposite of what we thought he would be. Just talking about even when he filled in for Chase Elliott. Like we kind of thought that he would be fast but wreck. I don't necessarily know why we felt that way, but we
He didn't fill
did.
in for Chase Elliott.
But no, he's actually just wildly consistent.
He didn't fill in for Chase Elliott. I'm trying to save you.
Filling for Chase Elliott. Who are you filling for?
He filled in
Hocevar
for Corey LaJoy, who was filling in for Chase Elliott.
for Chase Elliott. Fudge.
Wow, Will. Just messing this
I'm
all up. And
sorry,
you don't know
man. It
what you
was a
normally
blur.
mess up. You normally
Huh?
mess up the sponsors. You didn't remind me.
Dude, well, see, I didn't want to because you were kind of going on your roll. And sorry, guys. I don't know why. Like, I'll be honest about the mistake. My brain just likes to autofill that Carson Postbar was in the nine. I don't know why. He
It
very
would have been a
clearly
better
did not drive the nine.
decision.
Well,
We
yeah,
are sponsored by Gamebridge now. Because they've lost so much money this year being sponsoring Corey LaJoy that they said, you know what? We're going to sponsor an up and coming show that totally hasn't fallen off in views and that continues to just put out its best product. No, but seriously, we're sponsored by Bree, who made our logo. That probably won't be there. Sorry. Milan, go watch your YouTube show or whatever's on there. Go Terrell's clothes. Will wears them. Look at
I
Will's
do.
clothes.
Look, this is
Yeah,
Terrell's clothes.
Terrell totally made that shirt. And go watch
I didn't say
Ken's
he made it.
YouTube.
I was just saying these are his clothes.
And this is why Harrison Burton won, Will. This is why they did that to you. The script writers were like, this guy was making too many jokes last week because we all know sports are scripted.
Did
And
Terrell
they were
tell you
like,
that I ran into him when I was walking into my class downtown last week?
no, he did not.
Him and Ben were riding around on bikes downtown and they spotted me and came up to me and we talked. Terrell said he was very excited for the Turkey Bowl.
Oh, wow. We're not supposed to be. I will be not playing in that game. Coach X watches Coach X. Won't be playing in the game. I'll be watching and coaching. Offensive coordinator right here.
Actually, yeah, could you do that? Could you be my OC?
Yeah. Will run this play. Will's gonna be like, no,
No,
improvisation.
no. I'm just gonna be at the line like, no, 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 no. No, in all actuality, Matt's a very brilliant mind. Anyway, so
Wow,
all right.
that's the first time anybody's ever said that to me.
Oh, and
Jeff
then
Burton.
also I believe you forgot a sponsor. What about
Sponsor?
Ken?
I said, oh, I thought I said Aunt Ken. I might have said Aunt. Will doesn't even know who Ken is. He just knows that he sponsors the show. And now he thinks he can come at me about forgetting his name. Gosh darn it. Go watch Ken's YouTube if he even posted on it recently. I don't know. I'm sorry, Ken. I haven't. All right.
Anyway, so yeah, I was thinking about this as Carson Hocevar was filling in for Chase Elliott in the nine car.
And we were sponsored by Cambridge.
Yeah, and I don't know, but anyway, let's genuinely get into this thing. All right, so obviously, Coke Zero Sugar 400 this past Saturday night. Typically, the last few years, it's been the cutoff race. Of course, this year with the Olympics, it's not. Also, great decision by NASCAR to maintain the Labor Day weekend thing for the Southern 500. That there's the little things like that that show you they are trying to pay attention to their roots and their history. So, and also, I think Darlington is going to be an awesome cutoff race. Daytona doesn't need to be a cutoff race to be good. Darlington doesn't either, but it certainly adds intrigue to a race where they get a little bit more strung out. Which is also, I think, why Richmond was a great cutoff race because for a short track, you can get pretty spread out there and it can be kind of hard to pass. It's always kind of been that way. Um, but
Let's talk to Brett Griffin about the Richmond cutoff race.
what's it?
There's nothing ever that happened controversially in the Richmond cutoff race. In fact, Daytona is the only controversial cutoff race in NASCAR history ever.
Yeah, there was never a 13 car chase.
No. And Jeremy Mayfield never spoiled the party. Ever.
never.
Why did
But
they add Jeff Gordon?
uh, I mean, it's one of those things where I kind of look at it as like it didn't. I don't. It didn't hurt anybody that they did.
Yeah, he wasn't very
Could have.
effective in that chase. None of the drivers that were involved.
Oh
You could
my goodness! All these people, they just want my attention. They just can't get enough of the Wilster. What was being said?
All right, let's just you know what, we were talking about Jeff Gordon 2013 days. Let's talk about this race, which surprisingly started without fuel saving in stage one. 3 wide racing all through the pack, which they would do for 35 straight laps, and no crashes in stage one. No one crashed. No one did a spin. Nobody did that. No. And
And it would be
Joey,
like that the rest of the race.
oh yes. And Josh Berry would get his first career stage win. For some reason, I thought Joey Logano won the stage, but no, it was Josh Berry, who will not be mentioned in the rest of this video, I promise.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing. We will not talk about Josh Berry again.
But in stage two, guys, the fuel saving would happen, and it would cause a big wreck because some guys wanted to go and say, screw the fuel saving, and some guys wanted to save fuel. And Corey LaJoie would turn Noah Gragson into Ross Chastain, setting off the first big one of the night. And it looked like it was going to be a big day for the 23 team when this happened, because at the time, Bubba Wallace was leading the race.
Yeah. At the time the wreck happened, I kind of because I'll go ahead and say I got to watch select portions of the race. Like get to it, go away from get to it, go away
We
from it,
know.
and I
We
saw
know. We know you didn't watch. We know.
but I did though. That's the thing. You just need to
Did you
keep
watch
game
all
clock.
160 laps and 400 miles, huh? Huh? Did you not have more important things to do? Huh?
A very
Like
important thing to do.
like fixing showers,
No, it was fixing a shower this weekend.
fixing closets,
No,
fixing the fixings for dinner.
no. Quality time with family
His girlfriend.
and her family
His girlfriend.
and her family.
Guys, you know what, guys? We'll watch the portion of the race. We can be
I'm
happy.
the villain. I'm the villain.
Huh?
I treasure my girlfriend. I'm the villain.
All right. What were you thinking when the big one happened, Will?
Well, I mean, I kind of felt like I didn't want to necessarily say like, oh, shoot, Bubba's good, but like I did feel that like, hey, Riley, no, no,
What Will's trying to say is he felt happy inside
I
that
felt it. I
another man.
didn't feel like this. I didn't feel like this character here. Um, so that being said, Matt, if you want to take away the rest of stage two, and then we'll kind of just get into well, yeah, we'll kind of get to the end of the race.
Well, the rest of stage two was filtered by more of that amazing racing that you saw at the end of stage one. And then it kind of was taken over by the typical plate guys and Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski. By the way, that wreck also took out Denny Hamlin, so we never really got to see what Denny Hamlin had in this race.
Yeah.
And Chase Elliott, which is why I had to sing a second ago. But so Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, and Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney, they were all up there at the end of this thing. Joey Logano would take stage two. That's why I got a little confused on if he won stage one or not. And then we get in stage three, which was perfectly clean and fine.
Yep. They ran single file, and the cars were on the ground the whole time.
And
And
defending champion Ryan Blaney won because it was just the winner.
yeah, like a fair race, you know.
In fact, he led
All
every
right.
single lap. There was no comp
Yeah.
at all.
All right, Matt. I'll let you talk about the first wreck that you know was gonna go along with this recurring theme that I've been talking about for like since last week.
Well, so here we go. Essentially, we were all preparing for green flag pit stops. There was a wreck before the first wreck. And then John Hunter Nemechek got spun out, so we never got to see green flag pit stops. Who was leading the race, by the way? John Hunter Nemechek was doing a well of a job up front. It looked like he might be the spoiler for a second. But then the real two spoilers of the day would be the two guys we're about to talk about. We'll talk about one. I'll talk about this one. But with 10 to go, Michael McDowell was in the lead of this race, being pushed by Austin Cindric. Those two had worked together great the entire race. But coming into 3 and 4, there's just a push going wrong into the corner, and Michael McDowell was turned in front of the pack. It basically collected everyone in the pack, including some playoff hopefuls, Bubba Wallace and Chris Buescher, because we talked about they had comebacks. They were involved in this thing. Ryan Blaney, we joked about him a second ago, and Joey Logano were both caught up in it. Also, there was a restart penalty on Brad Keselowski on this run before this restart, which kind of took him out of contention and maybe changed the end of this race. He might have been in this wreck, but he might have also been in the lead of the race. But
Oh, and you've seen the weird parallel, right?
yeah, because David Reagan won the 2011 race, and that was the last time the 21 car won at Daytona. And then now Harrison Burton won at Daytona. Win the 21 car.
I don't believe that was phrased. No, it was the David Reagan got a restart penalty in the 2011 500, and the 21 goes on to win in the six car. And then obviously the six car restart violation. 21 car wins Daytona.
But Ryan Blaney won.
Oh shoot! Yeah, my bad. There's no parallel. Not at all.
Oh,
And also in the
okay.
wreck that Matthew's talking about, nobody lifted off the ground.
That's what I was just get to. Michael McDowell lifted off the ground. It looked like he was going to go flying into the catch fence for a second. It looked eerily similar to Tony Stewart at 2012 Talladega. That's what it looked like to me. But he didn't completely go over like Tony Stewart did. He did the thing did do its job. It did come back down. But now in the wreck that Will's going to talk about, where the thing would not do its job.
Okay, so I also want to say that one of the recurring talking points about the cars going over is, well, a lot of times they're aided by ink. And Matt just brought up that 2012 Tony Stewart wreck at Talladega, which, yes, still bothers me because I feel like had he not made that block, he probably would have still had a chance to come back and win, but that's a second point.
Michael Walker would have won his final race.
Probably, to be honest, but Tony Stewart would have been in like it anyway. Anyway, uh, Tony Stewart was hit really hard in the door, and that's what caused the car to flip on its side. Um, I'm not saying that McDowell didn't take a nice hit to get that car up and going, but it does not take much. It just doesn't. Matt, I know you talked about last week on the show, that a lot of this comes down to like having another car in them or this, that, and third, and how like we've seen uh cars spin at high speeds and not go over, but it just feels like a 50-50 chance at this point. So one time would have been too many, but then of course the next big accident comes in and it sucks too. Talk about like, okay, so this is different for me. If Josh Berry would have won this race, yeah, it's a major playoff outsider, but we have seen something out of him that you can at least hold on to and say, like, he's had speed. Harrison hasn't had any all year. But anyway, I look, I want to sit here and blame Austin Dillon because he might have started the accordion effect, but it's the style of racing here. That'd just be unfair and intellectually dishonest. There's an accordion effect on the bottom, and it eventually gets the four car sideways, and it's Josh Berry and
Austin Cindric.
Austin Cindric. Yeah, it's Josh Berry. Unfortunate too. Josh Berry and Austin Cindric go barreling into the infield, not barrel rolling, barreling into the infield, and then the four car lifts up and onto its roof, and then slides hard into the inside wall on its roof. Violent impact, this, that, and the third, and it should never have happened. And now you might be saying, Will, we've seen cars flip a million times. We've seen blow-ups. We've seen dogs bark in the background. And
That nobody could hear.
Really?
No. Now I can hear that one. I could hear that one. That one we could hear.
Riley is just also upset about this. Anyway, point is, this doesn't need to happen. I'm sorry, there has not been a package where this is this prevalent of an issue. Yes, we're always going to have flips. We're always going to have cars that blow over, but it should not be a 50-50 shot. It happens when a car gets sideways in the infield of the speedway. This is stupid. This is stupid, and it's because of the bottom of the cars. It's very stupid.
Yeah, I will say the only difference with this one and Corey LaJoy's was that there was a car in Josh Berry's door that also almost went over if you really watched the wreck back. Also, Eric Jones also almost went over on this crash on the other side of the track. So it is a problem. It doesn't scare me as much as the Corey LaJoy one did, even though the wreck looked worse because the car had some help, but it didn't have as
Yeah.
much help as we've had to have in the past. So it is a problem, but I do not think it will be fixed until the off season. So hold your breath at Talladega. That's all I'm gonna
Yeah.
say. As long as they're not like Denny Hamlin said on Actions Detrimental, I saw in the clip. I know Will's normally the one that brings up that show, but I'm gonna bring it up this week. Um, the flip itself for the driver isn't normally as bad. The one that worried us about this one, Jeff Burton brought it up in the race, was that he hit while he was on his belts. He was hanging on his belts when he hit head on into the wall because he was still over. So that's what kind of scared everybody. Well, I was relieved when I saw the strap going onto the car because I knew at that point they wouldn't be trying to flip the car back
Yeah.
over if he was not okay. But the flip for the driver, typically like Corey LaJoy's flip, isn't as bad as like a head-on hit into the wall. But the concerning part about this is if this happens on the tri-oval and it goes into the catch fence, that's when this gets scary. We've seen that before, and that becomes a danger to the fans and the driver, and that's when you have a real problem. And if we keep doing this, that will eventually happen. It won't just keep happening on the backstretch.
Well, see, here's the thing too, though. A car gets on its roof. Like I know we spent a lot of time talking about how that's not the part of the wreck that's actually that detrimental to the driver. Here's the thing, though. I think back to Newman in 2020 at Daytona. We don't want cars on their roofs, also because there's then a chance that a car is going to slide into them and hit them in the window.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to be taking impacts at all while you're upside down. And obviously, if you're upside down at all, there's just a much higher chance that that's going to happen. I know most of the time when a car flips over, usually the incident is just it's a flip, they roll or something like that. But then you have stuff like this where they slam into the inside wall, or again, God forbid, get hit by another car. In Newman's case, going almost full speed. Um, I we have an issue. To me, it's just kind of like the car tomorrow thing. We had the stupid back wing, and it was causing cars to flip over. Well, we have the stupid flat bottom of the car. It's causing cars to flip over. We have to fix that.
Yeah, I agree. Do you want to take the end of the race, or do you want me to take the end of the race?
Yeah, I'll kind of lightly go through the end of the race. I know we don't have a ton of time left, and we need to have time to discuss what this means. But we come down to the end of this thing, and I don't know about you. I actually felt pretty good. I thought Kyle Busch was probably going to walk this thing off. And I say walk this off because I'm used to it being the last, the cutoff race. But Kyle Busch, I don't want to say I felt like he was in control of the race on the final restart, but I say out of nowhere, he was up there towards the front, but out of nowhere, coming into the final set of corners, Harrison Burton, with help by Parker Redflaff, rockets to the front, drops down in front of Kyle Busch, blocks him to the finish line, and wins the Coke Zero Sugar 400. I will say this, tons of credit to Harrison Burton. That was a hell of a drive, and they tried. NASCAR really tried with the whole review and the finish thing to find anything wrong with what he did. It's hard to find someone mirror drive as clean as he did, actually. Like, I was very impressed with the means of which he went about getting the win. I know you said we're not going to talk about the playoff format, but disregarding it, this sucks because of the playoff format. Aside from that, a big underdog win, guy who needs this. Harrison needed to, like, talk about the basketball player, needed to see one go in. This guy needed to see a shot fall, and he finally got one. And I know I've kind of been a Harrison Burton hater. I felt burned by the DiBenedetto situation because that's who I was pulling for at the time. But I'm like, yeah, I almost put the silver spoon thing up for Harrison Burton, but also that I just didn't feel like that would be fair. So this is how I feel regarding the playoff picture, but not how I feel regarding Harrison Burton getting this win. That is awesome for him, and it was awesome for Jeff Burton to be able to call this thing home. This is another one of those top moments of the year. The 2024 NASCAR season is going to be fondly remembered for a long time.
How about the line when they crossed the line, though, with Lee Diffie? Jeff, your little boy has done it. And then the shot of Jeff Burton just pumping his fist and his headset falling off his head. And then we got kind of the 1993 Daytona 500 moment where you got to interview him on the cool down lap, which is really cool, where Harrison Burton dropped holy shit on live television. But
Yeah.
that was
Uh,
cool. I have to say, it did suck because part of me, if a non-playoff driver was gonna win, wanted it to be Kyle Busch because it's just sucked watching him be bad this year. But just a lot of credit to Kyle Busch on the last lap too, because he easily could have just turned Harrison
he
Burton in the
could have
trial,
jumped it.
and he didn't. He actually let off the gas if you watch the thing because he just didn't want to turn him.
Yeah.
And Parker Retzloff, thank you. You're an American hero for not
Yeah.
listening, going for the win. Because there's a world in which Parker Retzloff gets down too, and this is a whole different conversation.
Yeah. And then also like kind of to frame like how I was getting to watch this thing. Obviously, Jordan's getting to watch the end with me, and it's one of those things where like even she was excited. She kind of got to see like the excitement. Like she didn't like she's not aware of the fact like, oh, Harrison was this big time prospect, or that she didn't know until I told her that his dad not only was a driver but he's calling the race. Like these cool things that kind of makes you realize like, yeah, there's so much awesome stuff in NASCAR almost every week. Um, the sport rules. I've said that a lot on the show, but it just is true. So, playoff implications aside, Harrison Burton getting this win is awesome. That was so good for him seeing, and also him in the post race interview, casually just dropping like, "Yeah, I was fired from this job," and it's just like it almost stings in a way because I feel like he did what Matt Benedetto was supposed to do at Bristol in 2019, but
And for Leonard to still be alive for this, that's really cool. Also, another cool story, Ryan Blaney was actually coming out of the infield care center at the finish of the race, and he actually stopped his golf cart to go run to victory lane and go celebrate with the Woods. And apparently he stayed there for the entirety of the thing, just sitting at the bottom of the stage taking it in, because he was the driver that won the 99th race for the Wood
yep,
brothers. And just speaking of the Wood brothers in general, you look at guys like David Pearson, Kyle Petty, Elliott Sadler. I know Matt Benedetto didn't win a race, and you've also seen guys like Bill Elliott and Ken Trader kind of finish their twilight of their careers there. I think the stat was like Tiny Lund won a race for them too. I think the stat was like 47 different drivers won these 100 races, so that's kind of insane. So I could be completely wrong there, but I think that's what I saw. Maybe it was a different stat, but just correct me on that if I'm wrong. But
I know it has to be an absurd amount of drivers because I know of absurd amount of drivers that have won in a Wood Brothers car. It's funny because they're like Riley, they're like the reverse Griffin children, where they've been around forever, but the majority of their success, well, I would say the majority of their success hasn't come from one driver. It has, but um, they've had a lot of different drivers contribute to this thing. So Harrison Burton kind of getting to add his name to the ledger. That's awesome for him. And again, playoff format aside, this is a great triumphant moment. However, the driver that was last in points is now locked in the playoffs.
yeah, let's not talk about the system. Let's talk about what it lies ahead for us at the 7,500 to end this episode off. So Chris Buescher and Ty Gibbs. Martin Truex is pretty much locked in with the 58
Yep.
point gap. He will be locked in at the end of stage one, more than likely, unless just the most insane things happen. But Ty Gibbs plus 39. I'm feeling really good about that, unless he wrecks in stage one and finish like last in this race, or there is a new winner because Chris Buescher isn't that far behind him. So that is a shot there. I think the real story here on points. I think Ross Chastain at 26. I think that's even a little too much to make up. Now, the reason I'm not saying that about Bubba Wallace and Chris Buescher, it's a 21 point gap. This gap can almost be made up in the stages. So if Bubba Wallace would need to, without winning this race, in my opinion, he's going to have to finish top 5 in both the stages and the race. I think if he finishes 5th all the way out, so if he finishes 5th in both stages, that's 12 stage points. That gives him 9 points out. If he is 9 points out going into the final stage and Chris Buescher runs 15th the entire race and Bubba Wallace finishes 5th, he's in the playoffs by 1 point.
Yeah.
So this isn't as impossible as people make it seem. Bubba Wallace has gained up to 30 points in a race on the cut line before this season, but it is really hard when you consider they're going to a track that Chris Buescher almost won at earlier this year. It's not like you're going to a bad track for Chris Buescher. This is also a good track for Bubba Wallace. He's finished the top 10 in the last 3 races at Darlington. And it's also a good track for Ross Chastain. I think this makes that all the more difficult that all 3 drivers are good here. And then you also add in Josh Berry finished in the top 3 at Darlington at the end, and it's Kyle Busch. There's going to be a chance. So I think if a driver wins below the cut line, it'll be one of those two. Also, Eric Jones has won a Southern 500, and you can never count him out at Darlington. So I think those will be the 3 guys that are way below that could maybe shock you. But I don't think you'll see a guy like a Harrison Burton again, like a Zane Smith, get a win here at Darlington. I don't think it'll be that psycho. But there is a path on points. I don't think for Ross Chastain. I do think for Bubba Wallace. I think that 5 points makes a difference. But I think it is going to be a very tough path. I think the most realistic path for there being a new driver in the playoffs is a victory.
Win the race.
Win the race.
Yeah.
But
Bubba talked about it's unacceptable they don't have a win. I think they got to go get it. I know you said it's possible to do the stage points and good finish, but you can't go into the same banking on that. Win or go home.
Yep. I mean, at the end of the day, I think you're playing to win the race unless Chris Buescher crashes in stage 1. At the end of the day.
Pretty much.
And I think even then you're playing to still win the race, but you're not going to make a psycho gamble at the end of the race to go win the race.
Exactly.
So
no, I mean I'm with you there, but gotta find it. You gotta find it this week. I mean, obviously the 23 team has come alive the past 2 months, but you gotta find it, or else I know we have a lot of drivers in the playoffs that probably shouldn't. I said a lot. We have a couple drivers in the playoffs that probably shouldn't be there. You should be safely in, but let's go get it done. And I don't mean that just for Bubba. Obviously, I'm the Bubba fan, but I mean I feel that way for Ross. I feel that way for Chris Buescher, even to an extent. Go win the race. They all can. They all should, in some way, shape, or form.
It would be kind of poetic justice if Chris Buescher got either won this race or if he gets knocked out at Darlington after what happened at Darlington in the spring with the whole winner sticker comment. If somebody was to win their way in, even especially if it's a 2311 car, could you imagine the promos that NASCAR could run next year if he does not make the playoffs? But or if he wins that race, it would be amazing poetic justice for the 17 team. But you know, I think the 54 team is relatively safe if they could just kind of finish 25th. I think that's what they got to do. But if they wreck, that changes everything. But I think both of those Gibbs cars will make it. Martin Truex, I just don't see a path for him missing this. That might age very poorly because this season has been insane. For all I know, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, and Ty Gibbs could finish 1, 2, 3, and he finished last, and then everything just goes to crap for him. But we'll be watching. We'll all be watching next week. The Southern 500, one of the crown jewels. It's cool that it's normally the playoff opener, but it gets to be the closer this year, and we will have a lot to talk about whether or not will one of these 2 guys that probably deserves to be in win. Will Kyle Busch miss the playoffs for the first time since 2012, not get that walk-off win? Or will somebody else below this cut line shockingly win? Because
Corey LaJoy finally breaks